Hello, my name is Daniel Rosello, and today I'll be talking about digital mental health chatbots and the Therapeutic Alliance. So I'm going to just talk briefly about who I am, and then I'm going to get right into it, talk about my thesis project, and then just a little bit of stuff moving forward. So a little bit about me. I graduated with my Master's of Science in Psychological Research Methods from Nottingham Trent University this past year. My interest in technology and innovation, coupled with experience in psychiatric hospitals and schools, has really fueled my desire for large-scale improvements in mental health. More specifically, I'm interested in chatbots, kind of all things related to chatbots, including efficacy, ethics, accessibility, and using chatbots to test long-standing concepts of psychotherapy. Since completing my degree, I have continued my pursuit of career options, and I'm eager to be further involved in this niche of digital mental health. I'm currently actively seeking PhD placement, career, or internship opportunities, and I invite academic staff members and/or employers to contact me. So as I said, I'm just going to get right into this. The title of my project was Qualitative Analysis of Embodied Conversational Agents' Ability to Exemplify the Therapeutic Alliance. And while I know that sounds like a lot, I promise it'll make sense soon. Allow me to provide some background information and rationale. So mobile phone use is an increasingly integral part of our daily lives. In 2011, more people had access to mobile phones and clean water across the world, and next year, more people will have a cell phone than running water. And technology's presence has expanded into the domain of mental health care in forms such as computerized cognitive behavioral therapy, which incorporates principles of CBT to technology-based programs that don't require humans for administration. These programs can employ embodied conversational agents, ECAs, which I will refer to, which are computerized, cartoon-like characters that aim to demonstrate many of the same properties as humans. Some ECAs even seek to emulate therapists to an extent. Two examples of such ECAs are Wobot and Wyza, both of which operate primarily within the framework of CBT. And considering the availability of users to download these applications at any time for free, it's important that they be externally, empirically scrutinized to determine their impact on users and their mental health. While applications such as Wobot and Wyza have demonstrated the ability to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, some therapists have expressed concerns about their ability to develop a therapeutic relationship with users. This is an appropriate time to remind you all of the importance of Carl Rogers originally proposed that the therapeutic relationship was sufficient for enacting meaningful change in clients. And while that may have been overstated, the Therapeutic Alliance is undoubtedly an important component of client change and has consistently shown to impact therapeutic outcomes. And it's important here to note that there's a debate among researchers about the difference between the therapeutic relationship and the therapeutic alliance. The therapeutic relationship is broader, but the therapeutic alliance refers specifically to how clients interact with therapists and how that relationship facilitates therapeutic work. In this presentation, I am talking exclusively about the therapeutic alliance. The therapeutic alliance is comprised of common factors, which are identified across various psychotherapeutic orientations. These common factors, such as empathy, negotiation of goals, and collaborative framework, are used for establishing, developing, and maintaining the therapeutic alliance. Only one known study, at least at the time of this study, directly analyzed the therapeutic alliance in an interactive CCBT program by means of identifying the extent to which the program embodied the therapeutic alliance by design. This study aims to begin filling in the gap in the literature on the presence of the therapeutic alliance in ECAs and to assess the relationship between the presence of the therapeutic alliance in ECAs and therapeutic outcomes. So this study hypothesized that two things. One, that Wobot and WISA would demonstrate strong evidence for the CCBT Therapeutic Alliance, and also that change in scores on a measure of depressive symptomology would correlate with the ECA's ability to demonstrate the CCBT Therapeutic Alliance. So before I get into talking about Wobot and WISA and why I chose them, I just want to talk quickly about the participants. They were recruited via social media platforms for convenience sampling, and I started with 27 and ended up with 9 who completed it. 5 participants interacted with Wobot and 4 with WISA, each participant averaging about 175 to 250 individual responses per person. Which application participants were instructed to use was determined by an algorithm in Qualtrics alternating between Wobot and WISA. And the inclusion criteria in this study was on the basis of the applications having empirical effectiveness, full ECA automation, being freely available to download, and English being the user language of communication between user and ECA. There were some additional materials required for this study. WeTransfer.com was an important one. It was used by participants to anonymously send their conversation with the ECA to me, the primary investigator. In order to record conversations with the ECAs, participants were instructed to either use the screenshot feature on their mobile phone to take pictures of their conversation or to use a screen recording application, one DU recorder for Apple phones and the other AZ recorder for Android phones. The PHQ-9, the Patient Health Questionnaire 9, is a 9-item questionnaire that assesses presence and severity of depressive symptomology over the last 2 weeks and is one of the most widely used depression measures in the world. This study's procedure began with a link to a Qualtrics survey, which was provided by me in a social media post. Participants then created a code name, a unique identifier, which enabled me to know which transcript and PHQ-9 result belonged to which participants. Following the completion of the PHQ-9, participants were instructed to use either Wobot or WISA, depending on Qualtrics' assignment. Participants were instructed to use the app at least once a day for 1 week. They then submitted the data, as mentioned, in the form of screenshots or using a screen recording application to WeTransfer.com. And finally, they completed the PHQ-9 for a second time and were debriefed. Okay, data analysis. So data was extracted from Wobot and WISA conversations and analyzed according to the principles of framework analysis, which is a matrix-based analytic method of analysis that is favorable where a priori theory-driven themes have been identified. So the process of framework analysis is that the first step is alliance-related themes are identified. In my case, I drew on Cahill and colleagues' 2008 model of the Therapeutic Alliance. This model was adapted by Richardson and colleagues 2010 and further adapted by Barazzone in 2012 for 3 CCBT interactive programs. Based on further literature searching, 4 additional a priori themes were included that relate specifically to CCBT: privacy, credibility, flexibility, and technology-specific features. Next, the thematic framework was created by indexing recurring themes, and then data from both CCBT programs were analyzed chronologically for each participant in order of identified themes. And finally, after completion of data collection, it was evident that psychoeducation comprised a large component of the conversations between ECAs and users, therefore it was included as a theme. Here's a list of the final model of alliance factors that were a priori themes that were determined for this study. Due to time constraints, I won't be able to discuss the results for each identified theme, though I would be happy to discuss this in greater detail at a different time. So I'm going to have to skip a little bit ahead to a summary of the results, where both Wobot and WISA they had considerable evidence of CCBT alliance factors. They both demonstrated each a priori theme, with the exception of relational interpretations / questioning. Both apps did particularly well with showing empathy, working with the users on their goals, working as a team, providing feedback, and providing psychoeducational material. Discussion and moving forward. So, as I stated, analysis resulted in considerable evidence of ECA CCBT alliance features. Affirmations, however, and self-disclosure were common to both ECAs, in contrast to some recommendations which suggest that their use be minimal. However, this might be acceptable for ECA CCBT because the user knows that the ECA is a robot, thus greater efforts may be required to humanize it. An additional contrast between literature and results was exhibited in the theme of relational interpretation / questioning. While there was at least moderate evidence for all other a priori alliance features, relational interpretations or questions were almost entirely absent for both ECAs. This could be a result of the lack of emphasis CBT places on the use of relational interpretations as compared to other psychotherapeutic orientations such as psychodynamic, but the inclusion of greater relational interpretive abilities would likely result in users interpreting the interactions as deeper and more meaningful. Finally, there were some differences in how Woebot and WISA emulate specific alliance features. Firstly, the design of Woebot is more structured than WISA, providing users with less ability to generate their own text responses. And this was identified by one user as problematic, and this is consistent with findings that demonstrate users prefer to input data freely. However, both ECAs provided users with a variety of choice throughout the process of engagement. WISA and to a greater extent, Woebot provided all users with notably similar interventions rather than individualizing their approaches. This may be as a result of limited technological capabilities, but it's an important thing to address considering the potential for reduced user engagement. And unfortunately, while this study originally intended to analyze the difference between participant scores on the PHQ-9 before and after, only had 4 participants who completed both, so that couldn't be analyzed. And there were some other limitations, namely attrition, but also lack of user feedback. The greatest limitation is that it only analyzed the presence of the CCBT Therapeutic Alliance through the responses of Woebot and WISA. The therapeutic relationship alliance is a bidirectional interaction, and thus a lack of information about the experiences of the participants makes thorough analysis of the CCBT Therapeutic Alliance difficult. While there are many avenues for future research, I can only discuss a few right now. So as noted, being able to establish a connection between ECA, Therapeutic Alliance, and therapeutic outcomes would be a useful next step. Seeing if there's a correlation between the quality of the therapeutic alliance in chatbots and outcomes. Future research will likely also benefit most from greater standardization in the methodological approaches to research on this topic. The lack of consistency may create the inability to compare results across studies, and for example, this approach used the therapeutic alliance identified by Cahill and colleagues, where other people may suggest the use of Borden's highly cited working alliance. Furthermore, researchers must have consensus regarding the appropriate analytic methods used when assessing a therapeutic alliance where the therapist lacks sentience. For example, studies have shown that between human clients and therapists, there are discrepancies regarding how well they believe various aspects of the therapeutic alliance are executed during that session. And feedback of this kind is not possible when the therapist is a computer. And while this current study presents one way in which to assess the factors of the therapeutic alliance in CCBT, little is known about the validity of this approach. Therefore, it's essential that future studies investigate appropriate and effective methods of assessing such topics. I have to make it quick, but thank you. Thank you very much for watching this, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions.